Lukas here from viaRussian. Today we will answer the question: should you learn Russian with a book or not? In this video we will find out the advantages and disadvantages of learning Russian with a book. And then we will answer the question when you need to learn Russian with a book and when you don't need a book. Let's start by talking about the advantages of learning Russian with a book. First of all, it is the structure. A book gives you a structured plan. And yes, I think it's helpful for beginners. I know there's a lot of discussion about do you need a plan or should you just learn Russian randomly, so just absorbing things, so learning Russian by having a surrounding, a Russian surrounding, and that's enough. I think for the average student, like me, I am not the talented person that just picks up languages by absorbing things, like passively. And then for me, it is important when I start with something to have a general plan, to have a goal. Because like with everything in life, if you don't have a goal and you're just doing random things, there comes the point when you ask yourself, what am I doing? Is this right what I do? What is actually my goal? And this will not happen if you have a book. So this means the plan, the structure of a book, it helps you also with the most important thing when you learn a language, and it is consistency. Because when you have a plan, it's easier to be consistent. When you just do random things, then there will come the point when you ask yourself, so actually what should I do today? I don't know, I don't have a plan, I'm uncertain, so let's make a break and maybe skip today's session. This will not happen if you have a book. I don't say that a book gives you the best plan, but it is better than no plan at all. Because it also supports consistent learning. And consistent learning is required when you want to learn Russian. Additionally, a book gives you the chance to learn grammar because there are grammar exercises. If it is maybe even a good book, there are also other exercises like reading exercises. Exercises that engage you so that you need to do more than just focusing on grammar. But this point leads me now to the disadvantages, because this is actually also a problem if the book gives you more exercises, more opportunities to practice Russian than just doing grammar exercises. Why that? It is because it's not the book's fault, but it is always how we treat, how we use the book. But the majority, or many students, when they use a book and when there are exercises, especially if it's a good book, so there are practical exercises in the book, then they believe that they don't need to have real conversational practice. With real practice, I mean a conversation with a Russian native speaker. And this is a big issue. So actually, it's not the book itself that is responsible for this disadvantage, but it is the temptation. That we as students then believe, oh, okay, there are practical exercises in this book, so actually I don't need to practice with Russian native speakers. But of course, this is not true. You always need to practice with Russian native speakers. And the second disadvantage, besides the temptation that you don't practice and don't have real Russian practice with native speakers, it is that a book delivers you universal input. I mean, it's clear, a book is made for a mass of people. It is not made only for you. So it means there will be exercises, there will be content that maybe is not really so important for you, because it is easy for you to pick it up, so you don't need to waste your time focusing on this specific content. But then there's maybe content that is more difficult for you. So it would make sense to focus a little bit more on this content. But of course, the book and this general plan of a book doesn't know your personal struggles. But when I sum it up, at the end, the book gives you a universal plan that is still better than no plan at all. Okay, now we know that there are advantages and disadvantages when you learn with a book. Now let's figure out when it makes sense to use a book and when you don't need a book. The first situation. Let's assume you are on the self-study side. With self-study, I mean that you don't want to get the help of another person. So you think, I can learn Russian by my own. I don't need another person at all. First of all, I would not recommend this, but I know there are many people, and especially when you just start to learn a new language, you always want to do it alone because you think, I can do it, I can do it. I was one of them. For example, now I'm learning Spanish and I'm so happy to pay a tutor for helping me because it's so much faster. But this is another story. So we just assume you don't want to invest in a tutor or a teacher or just to get the help of another person. Then I highly recommend that you get a book, because then it really makes sense to get this plan, this structure. Don't do the mistake and try to find random things on the internet. So YouTube videos, then maybe language apps, then other social media channels, then you just Google for something. So you will be overwhelmed and you don't really see progress, and there will be the point when you ask yourself, what am I doing and what is actually my goal? To avoid this feeling and this disappointment, just get a book. As I said at the beginning, maybe it's not the best plan at all, yes, I know, but you have a plan at least, and it helps you to be consistent. And you also get, of course, grammar input. So you don't need to look for grammar on the internet. It's in your book. And you get also additional exercises when it's a good book. So this is what I really recommend you when you really want to do self-study. Just get a book. It's still the best way to learn Russian alone. But now this is very important. I cannot recommend that you do really only self-study, because you would need a lot of time and you would waste a lot of time. So just get another person for the practice part, for the conversational practice part. So even if you want to do self-study, please, if you can, just invest a little bit of money, or maybe you can find a language exchange partner, but you need another person to use the language, to have a conversation. So this is the first thing you should do after getting a book, when you do self-study. And the second thing then, what you could do after having a book and having conversational practice with a Russian native speaker, then the third point you could do as a self-study student, it would be to get more materials. Then you can look for materials on the internet like YouTube channels, podcasts, and other, online PDFs and so on. So this would be then the last point when you do self-study. Now we move on to the second situation, when it is not absolutely necessary to use a book for learning Russian. And this is when you learn with a teacher, tutor, or you take a Russian course. Before we get to the reasons for that, I want to tell you that it is a prerequisite that you get real practice when you choose to learn with, let's say, a teacher. And I guess this is also the reason why because you don't always get the real practice when you do, for example, a Russian course at high school or at university. That's also the reason then why many people now prefer self-study. Because they say, yeah, I tried a course, but it didn't help. Of course it did not. But the issue is not that it is a course, but rather how we implement the course. Just think about the classic high school or university language course. There's one teacher for many students. And of course, it's not always possible to create an interactive atmosphere. So it's rather a person just reading and telling you something. and you're just listening to it, you're not engaging. So this is then not a real conversation with a Russian native speaker. So of course then you cannot compare it with a really, let's say, private lesson with a Russian tutor or a private teacher. This is what I'm talking about. So now, when we are in the second situation, of course, now the progress, it does not depend on how you use the book, for example, but it rather depends on how this other person, the teacher, the tutor, or the course creator, or whoever, how he or she implements now the course and delivers you the content, and how he or she practices with you. So let's assume you get real practice in this course or in your private lessons. Then you should also get, or it's possible to get, a plan. Of course, if you just have a language exchange partner, he will not provide you a plan. But if you have a private teacher or a really good language course, there you will get a plan, and even your individual plan. So this plan, as we know, it supports the consistency. But now even more important, you will learn consistently because now you practice with another person. Don't forget this. Now you're accountable to someone. And this is very motivating, and it's far easier to stay consistent. If you know, 2 days a week I have a Russian lesson with another person. This is then very easy now to stay consistent. And even now you could get individual materials. You know, in the Russian book, as I said, in the first part, you get a universal plan and universal exercises which are created for a lot of people. So a private tutor or private teacher can even give you individual materials that are relevant for your current situation, your current progress. So you get exactly what you need right now. And at viaRussian we try even to take this to the next level. So you don't only have one private teacher or private tutor. It is like having a course, but now you are the only course student and there are many teachers for you. So you will get your individual plan, your individual materials, your individual practice lessons. So everyone is working for you and giving you an individual plan. And if you have something like that, then of course you don't need a book anymore. Because then you have the plan, you have the consistency, you have the real practice. So you have everything what you actually need. The only thing that is still required, it is then only your motivation and only the execution and using the resources. And then a book is not necessary anymore. That's it. I hope you got an idea about when you need a book and when it is possible to learn Russian without a book. Now I just want to give you the main points of the video. The first situation. We assume you want to learn Russian with self-study and you don't want to invest any money in a tutor, teacher or a Russian course. Then get a book. It is still the best way to have a vague plan and to stay consistent. Second situation. Now we assume you're ready to get some help because you want to learn Russian fast and you don't want to waste your time. So, if the course, the teacher, the tutor is good, if it is high quality, then you don't need a book. That's actually it. That's the bottom line. So, I hope it helped and see you next time.